This is Boomer Life on CISL 650.
You know, the drummer for Pink Floyd who's singing that Money song turned 71 a couple of days ago. It's creeping up on all of us. Welcome back to Boomer Life here on CISL 650. We're talking debt and solutions to debt problems with our guests from Abakhan and Associates, proposal administrators and trustees in bankruptcy, in the persons of George Abakhan and Brett Luckin. George, this is Boomer Life. We're talking to a lot of people who are 55 plus, many of whom are in their 60s, still working, but, winding down the employment cycle. Many of us boomers are stuck with debts that we had absolutely no intention of carrying at this point in our lives 10 years ago, but things have changed. Circumstances have worked out differently. You're having a meeting with a person who's 65 in a day or two who's got serious financial issues. What do you tell people 65 and over with limited expectations of cash flow when they've got monstrous debt problems?
Well, first of all, you have to analyze it, obviously. And in the case of this 65-year-old, he's divorced. Actually, I think he's probably divorced a couple of times. So, of course, every divorce means that you lose more of your family assets,
right.
So that eventually you end up with nothing. Well, he's got basically nothing, but he's got a pile of debt, and he doesn't want to go bankrupt, and he's earning. So in his case, he's got a litigation lawsuit against him, a judgment, and I forget which bank it is, but they're going after him, and they're garnishing his wages. Well, he's on $2,500 a month net, and 33% of that goes right out the window.
Ouch.
Now, so basically tomorrow I'll fly out, sign him up, and the garnishee will be released.
Okay, this is that 24 to 48 hour thing you were talking about earlier. Once the individual commits to the program and signs up, that the garnishee goes away almost immediately.
Yeah, well, we have to notify the place where he works,
right,
that whoever it is that's garnisheeing no longer will count, and we also notify the person that's got the garnishee. But the thing is that what happens in a lot of the cases, you have certainly female old age pensioners that the husband has died. He may be carrying debt that he hasn't disclosed to her.
Yes.
And she's unwittingly signed them. So we get a preponderance, I don't know, Brett, what do you think, 50-50 or maybe a little bit more than that of females have come in?
I think of the more elderly, you tend to find there are more females.
And what do you do? How do you craft a proposal, Brett, for a senior who has quite limited resources and is unlikely to be able to afford whatever remedy you recommend to the creditors?
We work it within the confines of their cash.
Yes.
I see.
There are possibilities, though, and I think maybe this is something else. If you work out what a proposal payment could potentially be for someone, it may be possible that someone who's more elderly on limited income cannot afford it. It's
right.
beyond their ability
exactly.
to pay. Just fairly recently, in fact, we signed up a lady in Kelowna who her children are helping her make those payments.
Oh, I see.
And of course, it's quite possible for
and
that to happen.
That's agreeable as far as the creditors are concerned, as long as the cash flow is fine and the payments are on time.
Well, it works like this: if the children, if they weren't agreeable and they didn't allow the children to make the payments, the person would go bankrupt and the creditors wouldn't get anything.
Right. And
so in
it's
this
a comparison
case,
issue again, right?
Right.
Bankruptcy versus proposal.
And in this case, I believe the compensation was 12 cents on the dollar.
Yes, it was significantly lower, but because that payment on the proposal was coming from a third-party source, which wouldn't exist in the bankruptcy whatsoever, the creditors were, of course, agreeable to what would conventionally be less than they would ordinarily agree to.
How does it work? George, you've mentioned settlements as low as 6 cents on the dollar. You were just now referencing something in the net neighborhood of 30 cents on the dollar. When a trustee takes a client and analyzes, got the full workup of that person's ability to pay, when you sit down or conference call with these creditors, how do you sell them on what level of percentage of cents on the dollar to accept? Or do they decide that amongst themselves minus your input?
You mean the creditors?
Yeah, the creditors.
Well, the creditors, basically the big banks have their insolvency departments located in Toronto, and they have set criteria. So generally, if it's around 25 cents, we know that some of the banks will accept that.
Okay.
One bank may not accept that. I'm not going to disclose which banks they are because otherwise they'll start changing their attitude.
Of course, right.
But
and that's fair ball, no problem.
Yes.
But the point is that from that criteria, we try to put a range in that's acceptable. Also, we have to work it with the debtor, who is not a client but a debtor.
Okay.
And we warn them that maybe this bank will not accept it, and they have the preponderance of the vote. In which case, if they come back to us and say they want another $100 a month or $50 a month, we'll get a hold of you and see if you want to accept it.
Right.
If they accept it, then it's binding on all the other creditors.
And you need to understand also that we go into the process having done it a few times ourselves before.
Of course, right.
So from our point of view, the reason why I can't speak for other trustees, but why Abakhan and Associates has such a low failure rate in terms of its proposals, because we go into the proposal understanding what that group of creditors that is specific to you as a debtor may accept, and craft the proposal around that in order to try and ensure a high success rate.
Because I suppose the field of creditors is rather small, and as professionals, you get to know all of these players on the field and what their expectation levels are.
We don't know the individuals, but we know
their corporate profiles.
We know their profiles.
Right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Interesting.
So what's key to understand is that we do not, I would, as an example, not file a proposal that I would immediately know just by looking at it as a very high chance of failure. I would just tell you that you're offering these guys 3 cents on the dollar or 7.
They're not going to bite down.
No way
on
it's
this
going to work. You're wasting your time, so don't even bother.
So it's in everyone's interest to be reasonable right from the get-go.
Right. And that's the whole process, and that's actually why, as trustees, the certification is what's so important, because ultimately the creditors rely heavily on our ability to get you to disclose what they need to know and what we need to know to make an informed decision.
I mean, the creditors have their power. A visa, let's say it's a CIBC visa, they have the whole history of their visa bill. So if they've got $25,000 in there on a trip to China or something, they'll let us know that we got a problem.
Right. Right.
And it has happened.
I'm sure. Interesting stuff. Gentlemen, we're fresh out of time. Allow me to just recommend the website to our listeners, because that's where it all starts. If anyone wants to have a conversation with Brett or George or any of your colleagues at Abakhan and Associates, and there are offices all over the province. We'll start from the north, Prince George, Vernon, Surrey, Vancouver, and Victoria. Just go to abakhan.com. That's ABAKHAN.com. All the phone numbers, all the emails, all the contact stuff is right there on your screen.
Thank you, Steve.
George and Brett, good to see you both again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And we'll catch up to you next time right here on Boomer Life.